I so these famously have no script because I'm crashing out. I'm arguing about something, or I'm just telling you all my thoughts. So bear with me. Let's talk about anti-blackness. Me moving is not disconnected from that topic, so that segue is probably a little bit harsh. The 18 years I've been here, right, with the exception of a year and some change to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to found my startup that I got kicked out of. In those years, of course, I've become more fond of black people and black culture than ever before. I've become more in touch with my own blackness, but at the same time, I've struggled with my proximity to whiteness and what that means and how I process that. In America, within the structure we've built in this country, as you become more educated, become more successful, you naturally have to deal with your proximity to whiteness. In corporate America, any jobs you have, you're one of the few black people there. And something that's unavoidable is your attitude and disposition towards black people, right? It's tough. Um, Being a person that was mostly raised in the suburbs as a military kid, my dad was in the Air Force for almost 30 years. And so there's a lot of moving and mostly white schools and mostly white neighborhoods. And I don't need to detail the long legacy of black civil rights and slavery and transatlantic trade and all that that led to this moment. But now that we're here, it's like, okay, how do I reckon with the realities of being black in this country and what it means for me when there's even parts of me and parts of how I see the world that could be considered anti-black. Like I still struggle with anti-blackness, and I would argue that all of us do. If I could give you an example, I'm single, right? I've been single for a minute, and even though I'm mostly outside, hobbies, working out, etc., I'm also occasionally on dating apps. That's just how it goes. And so sometimes you're going through dating apps and you'll land on somebody who is stereotypically black. And what I mean by that is all stereotypes come from somewhere. There is a, you know, subset of black culture that you can find a lot of in Atlanta where there are certain features that become more prominent. There's um, a lot more marijuana use, which is not just a black thing, but it's heavily applicable to parts of Atlanta, especially. There's a certain type of music they'll listen to. There's the sexy reds, right? Stuff like that that I'm not personally into, but they might be into. There's a type of clothing that they tend to wear, and sometimes it even comes down to the type of food they're eating because of a lack of nutrition in certain parts or healthy nutrition in certain parts of the city. You can see the effect that has on a person when it's like 20 plus years on and that's all they've been eating. I say all this to say there's a lot that stacks up and you can see it and hear it and feel it when you're scrolling down somebody's profile, for example, and you're considering whether you want to date that person or whether you're interested in that person. And that could be considered anti-blackness. Why? Not because that is blackness. It's not. Blackness is a very wide spectrum of things. It's a very complex thing to try to describe and pin down. But that's one subset of black culture, especially in Atlanta. And if you just inherently write that off as, oh, that type of person is not what I'm interested in, are you being anti black? Like, that's a question, not a rhetorical question. Am I being anti black by dismissing the women that may fit that stereotype or fit that archetype of a person? You could just say that, oh, you saw something that isn't compatible with your personality, not so much just the black part of it. Maybe you're right. But there is a part of me that's like, ew. Like, what I'm saying? Like that type of black person, stay far away from me. And I think that attitude does escape the bounds of a dating app. It leaks into real life. Like it becomes part of how you see the world around you. when you're just fellowshipping with black people, when you're just in community with black people, there's aspects of it that's like, damn, I wish I was more comfortable around this subset of my culture. I can't help that I talk like this. I can't help that my vocabulary is what it is, and my ability to code switch is what it is. And a lot of my fellow black people don't have that. They don't have those benefits. They don't have those resources. I don't know, man. I struggle with the fact that there's associates of mine who exhibit some of these characteristics. And over time, I've had to distance myself because it's just like, I don't want to be around that anymore. I used to be a rapper. And in that environment, there's a lot of, weed smoking and disrespect of women and heavy use of the N word. And it's just things I'm not compatible with that I distance myself from once I made the switch to YouTube. So that's another kind of micro example. I think what it comes down to is, what do you consider black? Well, what is black? What does black mean? What kind of culture comes with it? And how comfortable you are ultimately with the ways people present themselves, the ways they choose to live. Then let's talk about anti-whiteness. I I can go back to the dating app example, right? You're swiping, you're swiping, you're swiping, and you see someone who's half black and half white. I don't know which parent is which on a dating app. I have no way of knowing that. But what I do know is, if I'm talking about long-term relationships, which these days I tend to lean towards as opposed to short-term, what's always given me pause in the case where it's a mixed person is like, oh, if I get in a long-term relationship with them, I have to bring a white person into my family. You know what I'm saying? Not only a white person, meaning their mother and father or whoever. I have to bring in those white grandparents and white cousins and white aunts and uncles, and the probability that one of them is going to perform a microaggression or be straight up racist or just dislike me due to some like latent discrimination or stereotypes is 100%. Like at least one of them. You know what I'm saying? It's it's a tall order to be like, oh yeah, tie yourself forever to this person who is going to create a situation where 1/4 of your extended family is Caucasian now. Like I can't wrap my mind around that. So there's plenty of perfectly good people that I could be dating, interacting with, um, that I just have to write off. Just not consider dating seriously at all. And that's something I struggle with. It's something I think about all the time. Like, am I dismissing a perfectly good potential partner due to the fact that they're half white? What does that mean? Because I can't just block out my girlfriend's whole family, right? Or half of her whole family. That's not going to work. I've only ever dated black women, and I don't think that's going to change. But the percentage of black is definitely something I think about a lot and I challenge myself and ask myself, am I on the right side of logic? Am I on the right side of history? Maybe these questions are too big for one person's dating life. In the grand scheme of things, none of it really matters, but it matters to me. And if there's any point to all this rambling that I've done in this video, it's that, blackness is not just one thing, but there are parts of it that I think all of us push ourselves away from. Because I could say it in reverse, right? a lot of us tend to date what we know and what's around us. And so a person from the heart of Atlanta who's only known people of that subset of black people, they may see me and, not be excited, not be willing to engage. And that's also something I got to live with. So I think it goes both ways. But the power dynamic is something I can't overlook, because someone who has more education and more experience in the world, like I've traveled more, I've seen more countries, etc., they inherently usually have more resources to be able to share and bring to a relationship than vice versa. And so, by the nature of me excluding these people from my potential dating pool, I'm the one who's gatekeeping power, influence, access to resources. And so, I think if it's anybody's responsibility to think about it and wrestle with these concepts, it's mine. And I do. I think about it all the time. I think I've acknowledged all the angles of this, but anybody who's watching this and who's white and has something to weigh in on, maybe there's part of this you never thought about before. Anybody who's watching this and who's black and can't relate to anything I'm saying and it's like, you tripping, let me know. And if you can relate and these are things you think about but you don't really talk about it out loud ever, I want to hear from you too. This is a controversial subject, I guess. If there's ever been a crash out, it's this one. I don't even know how I would perceive this if I watched this. I might dislike me all of a sudden. But anyway, there's a reason this channel is by itself, separated from all my main content. I'll catch y'all on the next one. It's um it's always good, I guess, to get these thoughts out that I'm willing to bet more than just me think about.